Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour and looked out at the stars. He had been commanding the ship for 5 years now. In that time, he had seen the fear in alien eyes whenever they met humans. It never got old. The bridge, crew worked quietly around him. Lieutenant Amy Collins sat at her science station, reading data about their next mission. She was the best xenobiologist in the fleet. Her job was to study alien life forms, but most of the time she just had to figure out how to keep them calm around humans. "Captain," Collins said, turning in her chair, "I have the mission briefing ready." Morrison nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The view screen showed a map of known space. A red dot blinked at the very edge, far from any human colony or alien world. "We got a distress signal from here," Collins explained. "The void sector. Nothing lives out there. Too much radiation, too many gravity wells. Even our ships have trouble in that area." Sergeant Rick Taylor stood near the weapons console. He was a big man, even by human standards. His arms were covered in scars from battles across the galaxy. What kind of ship would be stupid enough to go out there? "Unknown," Collins said. "The signal was weak. Could be anyone." Morrison studied the map. 50 years ago, humans had made first contact with the galaxy. What they found was a collection of weak species who had never seen a real fight. Humans came from Earth, a Class 12 death world, the highest classification any planet had ever received. Most alien worlds were Class 2 or 3 at most. Earth was a nightmare planet. Deadly weather, poisonous plants, and animals that killed for fun. Humans had to fight every day just to stay alive. It made them strong. It made them dangerous. The aliens learned this quickly. The first species to meet humans were the peaceful Zilani. They took one look at human soldiers and immediately surrendered their entire fleet. They thought humans were demons from some hell dimension. The Korthak were different. They were warriors, 7 feet tall and covered in natural armor. They had conquered half the galaxy through pure strength. When they met humans, they challenged them to single combat. The human Marine, who accepted the challenge, killed 3 Korthak champions without breaking a sweat. The rest of the Korthak warrior race knelt and begged for mercy. That was how it always went. Humans showed up, aliens ran away or submitted. It was the natural order of things. "Sir," said Pete Kumar from the engineering station, "we have all systems ready for the jump to the void sector." Kumar was a small man, but Morrison had seen him fix a plasma conduit while under enemy fire. All humans were tough, but engineers were especially crazy. They had to be to work with the dangerous technology that kept their ships running. "Communications," Morrison called to Lisa Grant. "Send a message to command. Tell them we are beginning investigation of the distress signal." Grant nodded and started typing. She was quiet most of the time, but Morrison knew she could talk her way out of any situation. She had once convinced a fleet of alien pirates to surrender just by explaining how painful human torture methods could be. "Message sent, Captain," Grant reported. Morrison looked around his bridge. Dr. Alex Thompson stood near the medical station checking his equipment. Thompson had saved more human lives than any other doctor in the fleet. He was also the man who had developed new ways to keep alien prisoners alive during interrogation. His gentle face hid a mind that understood pain better than anyone. This was his crew. 5 humans from a world that had tried to kill them since birth. They had survived Earth's death world environment and then gone on to dominate an entire galaxy. There was nothing in space that could threaten them. "All stations report ready, Captain," Collins said. Morrison settled into his command chair. The Endeavour was humanity's most advanced ship. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets. Its armor could survive direct hits from planet-killer missiles. Its crew was made up of humans who had been selected from millions of candidates. "Take us into hyperspace," Morrison ordered. The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel. Morrison felt the familiar sensation of the hyperspace transition. Most alien species needed drugs to survive hyperspace jumps. The human nervous system handled it without any problems. While they traveled, Morrison thought about the distress signal. Who would be foolish enough to enter the void sector? The area was filled with gravitational anomalies that could crush a ship, radiation storms that could cook a crew in minutes. Even asteroids moved in unpredictable patterns due to the strange physics of the region. Maybe it was a human ship, some explorer or merchant who had taken a wrong turn, or maybe it was aliens trying to hide from human expansion. Either way, the Endeavor would find them. The hyperspace alarm sounded. They were approaching their destination. Dropping to normal space in 10 seconds, Kumar announced. Morrison gripped his chair. Whatever they found out here, he was confident his crew could handle it. Humans always found a way to survive. It was what they did best. The ship dropped out of hyperspace. Morrison looked at the view screen and felt his confidence waver for the first time in years. The space in front of them was filled with wreckage, dozens of ships from different species all destroyed, but not by weapons he recognized. The metal was twisted and torn, as if something had ripped the ships apart with bare hands. Morrison had seen battle damage before. This was something else entirely. "Collins, start scanning the wreckage," he ordered. His voice was steady, but inside he felt the first touch of something humans rarely experienced anymore. Fear. The wreckage field stretched for kilometers in every direction. Collins worked at her station, scanning each destroyed ship. Her face grew more worried with every reading. "Captain, I count 37 vessels," she reported. "Multiple species. Korthak, Zalani, Hrathi, even some human freighters." Morrison felt cold. Human ships were nearly indestructible. What could tear them apart like this? "Age of the wreckage?" he asked. "Recent. Some of these ships were destroyed only days ago." Collins paused, studying her screen. "Sir, I'm detecting life signs." Morrison straightened in his chair. "Where?" "Korthak heavy cruiser 2 kilometers off our starboard bow. Faint, but definitely alive." Taylor stepped forward. "Could be a trap, Captain. Korthak are tricky." Morrison considered this. The Korthak warrior race was known for ambush tactics, but they had never used their own dead ships as bait before, and the damage to their vessel looked real. "Grant, try to contact them," Morrison ordered. Grant worked her console for several minutes. Finally, she shook her head. "Their communications are down, sir, but I can detect power in their core section." Morrison made his decision. "Taylor, get your Marines ready, we're going aboard. Thompson, grab your medical kit. Collins, you're with us too." "Sir," Kumar called from his station. "I should warn you. The readings from that ship are strange. The metal shows signs of molecular disruption. Whatever did this, it didn't use normal weapons." Morrison nodded. "Noted. Keep the ship ready for immediate departure." 20 minutes later, Morrison led his boarding party through the airlocks. The Korthak ship was dark and cold. Emergency lighting cast red shadows on the walls. Their boots echoed in empty corridors that should have been filled with 7-foot-tall warriors. "This way," Collins said, checking her scanner. "Life signs are coming from the core." They moved carefully through the ship. Morrison had been on Korthak vessels before. They were built like fortresses with thick walls and heavy doors. This one looked like something had punched holes through the armor plating. "Jesus," Taylor whispered, stopping at one hole. "Look, at the edges. This wasn't cut or blown out. Something ripped through 3 feet of battle steel with its bare hands." Thompson knelt by the hole, running his fingers along the twisted metal. The patterns suggest incredible physical strength, but also intelligence. These tiers follow the ship's structural weak points. They reached the core section. Morrison could hear voices inside speaking in the harsh Korthak language. He recognized some words from his military training, words like death and darkness, and hunters. The door to the core was locked from the inside. Taylor placed charges and blew it open. Inside, they found 7 Korthak warriors huddled together like frightened children. Morrison stared in shock. He had fought Korthak before. They were proud, fierce beings who would rather die than show weakness. These warriors were trembling. Their eyes darted constantly to the shadows. One of them was rocking back and forth, muttering to himself. The Korthak commander looked up as the humans entered. His armor was cracked and stained with blood. When he saw Morrison's uniform, he struggled to his feet. "Human," he said in broken, Standard. You must leave. They come from deep dark. The hunters. Morrison stepped closer. What hunters? Who attacked you? The commander's eyes were wide with terror. Not what. Who? They hunt for pleasure. They hunt for meat. We were 30,000 warriors. Now 7. Thompson moved to examine the wounded Korthak. His scanner showed massive stress damage to their nervous systems. These beings were dying from fear itself. Commander, Morrison said gently, tell me what happened. The Korthak warrior took a shaking breath. We came here following distress calls. Many ships, many species, all crying for help. We thought to save them, to earn honor in battle. He paused, his whole body shaking. But calls were trap. The hunters use them to bring prey. They disable ships, board them, then hunt crew through corridors. For sport. Collins was scanning with her equipment. Captain, I'm detecting trace DNA from unknown species throughout the ship. Whatever these hunters are, they're not in our databases. They move through walls, the commander continued. Energy weapons do nothing. They are fast, smart, work together, like pack animals. But they think like generals. Taylor checked his rifle. How many of them? Unknown. They take turns. Some hunt, others watch and learn. They study how we fight, then change tactics. The commander grabbed Morrison's arm with a grip that would crush human bones. You must run, human. They know about your species. They want to hunt Deathworlders. Thompson's medical scanner started beeping. Captain, these Korthak are in extreme physiological distress. Their fear response is so intense it's causing organ failure. Morrison looked at the broken warriors. These were beings who had conquered half the galaxy through pure violence. If something could reduce them to this state, what would it do to humans? How long ago did they attack? Morrison asked. 2 days, the commander whispered. They left us alive on purpose. They want us to suffer. They want others to find us and hear our story. Collins's scanner suddenly started shrieking. She looked up with wide eyes. Captain, multiple contacts approaching at high speed. Whatever they are, they're moving faster than anything should be able to in this gravity well. Grant's voice crackled through their comm units. Captain, we have incoming. Multiple bogies. Speed impossible to calculate. They're not showing up on any sensors except proximity. Morrison felt his heart rate increase. The enemy was coming, and they had no idea what they were facing. All teams back to the ship now, he ordered. But as they turned to leave, the lights went out. In the darkness, Morrison heard something that made his blood freeze, laughter, cold, calculating, and utterly alien. The hunt had begun. The darkness lasted only seconds before emergency power kicked in. Red lights bathed the core chamber in blood-colored shadows. Morrison drew his sidearm and motioned for his team to form a defensive circle around the surviving Korthak. Grant, report. He spoke into his comm. Static answered him. Then Grant's voice came through, distorted and frightened. Captain, they're not using ships as we know them. These things are alive. Biological constructs the size of frigates. Thompson kept his scanner trained on the corridor entrance. Captain, I'm reading massive biosignatures approaching our position. Whatever these things are, they're huge. The Korthak commander grabbed Morrison's sleeve. They come now. They always come in darkness. They see in wavelengths we cannot imagine. Collins activated her portable light, sweeping it across the chamber. Movement in the corridors. Multiple contacts. Taylor positioned himself at the doorway, rifle ready. How do we fight something that moves through walls? Before Morrison could answer, the wall beside Taylor began to ripple like water. A shape pressed through the metal, as if it was liquid. Morrison got his first look at humanity's new nightmare. The creature stood 9 feet tall on legs that bent, wrong. Its skin looked like black metal that flowed and shifted. 6 arms ended in claws that could slice through battle armor. But the worst part was its head. Elongated and eyeless, it turned toward the humans with obvious intelligence. When it opened its mouth, Morrison saw rows of teeth designed for tearing flesh. "Open fire!" Morrison shouted. Taylor's rifle blazed, sending high-energy bolts into the creature. The shots passed right through it, as if it was made of smoke. The thing tilted its head, making a sound like grinding metal that Morrison realized was laughter. Two more creatures phased through different walls. They moved with liquid grace, surrounding the humans with practiced ease. Morrison had seen pack hunters before, but nothing this coordinated. One of the creatures spoke. Its voice came from everywhere at once, resonating through the metal walls. The words were in perfect standard. "Young Deathworlders, we have watched your species spread through the galaxy. Your reputation precedes you." Morrison kept his weapon trained on the nearest creature, even though he knew it was useless. "What do you want?" "Want?" The creature that had spoken moved closer. "We are Zerathi. We come from a world that circles a neutron star. Our home makes your Earth look like a garden paradise. We are what evolution creates when everything tries to kill you for 1 billion years." Collins was scanning frantically. "Captain, their cellular structure is unlike anything in our databases. Their bones are denser than titanium. Their muscle fibers show impossible strength ratios." Another Zerathi appeared through the floor. Scientists are quick to analyze good intelligence makes better prey." Thompson stepped backward, his medical training recognizing predatory behavior. "You're not here for conquest. You're here to hunt." The lead Zerathi made that grinding laugh again. "Conquest is for species that need resources. We hunt because it amuses us, and because we are always hungry." Morrison tried to think tactically. "Our ship has weapons that can destroy entire fleets." "Yes," the Zerathi said. "We know. We have watched you fight the Korthak, the Zelani, all the soft species of this galaxy. You have grown comfortable being the apex predators." The creature moved closer, its eyeless head somehow focusing on Morrison. "But you see, young Deathworlder, you have never met true apex predators. You have never been prey." Taylor backed up against the wall, his rifle still trained uselessly on the creatures. "The Korthak said you hunt for sport. Sport, sustenance, improvement of the species. Your galaxy has become soft. Too much peace, too much cooperation. We provide a necessary service. We cull the weak and challenge the strong." Morrison felt sweat running down his back. "And humans?" "Humans," the Zerathi said, "are the most interesting prey we have encountered in centuries. A true Deathworld species. Your reputation for violence and survival is well known throughout the galaxy. We have been waiting for you to venture into our territory." Collins' scanner was beeping rapidly. "Captain, I'm detecting dozens more of them throughout the ship. They've been studying us since we boarded." The Zerathi leader turned its head toward her. "The scientist is correct. We learn by observation. Every movement, every tactic, every weakness. By the time we reveal ourselves, we already know how you will fight." Thompson raised his scanner toward the creature. "Your biology suggests you can phase through solid matter at will. How?" "Curious to the end. Another admirable trait." The Zerathi's form became translucent. "Our world taught us to exist in multiple states of matter. Solid when we need strength. Gaseous when we need to move. Energy when we need speed." Morrison realized the hopelessness of their situation. These beings had evolved beyond anything humans had ever faced. They could ignore walls, weapons, and probably most forms of technology. "The distress signals," he said. "You use them as bait. An old technique. Most species respond to cries for help. It reveals their locations and their nature. The brave ones come to rescue. The greedy ones come to loot. Both make interesting prey." The lead Zerathi moved until it was inches from Morrison's face. "But humans are different. You come to investigate, to understand, to fight if necessary. You do not run at the first sign of danger." Morrison met the creature's eyeless gaze. "We don't give up easy." "No," the Zerathi agreed. "You do not. That is why we have chosen you for our next great hunt. Your entire species will provide entertainment for years to come." One of the Korthak survivors whimpered. The sound seemed to amuse the Zerathi. Several more creatures phased through the walls until the small chamber was filled with the 9-foot-tall predators. "But first," the leader said, "we hunt you. Your crew, your ship, your lives. We will study how Deathworlders die. Then we will use that knowledge to hunt the rest of your species. Morrison felt something he had not experienced since childhood on Earth, the absolute certainty that he was about to die. But along with that fear came something else. Anger. These creatures thought humans were just another species to be hunted and consumed. They had no idea how wrong they were. The Zerathi did not attack immediately. They circled the humans like wolves studying sheep. Morrison realized they were being evaluated, measured for sport value. The thought made him sick with rage. "Thompson, Collins, can you get those Korthak moving?" Morrison whispered. Thompson was already working on the survivors with stimulant injections. "Their nervous systems are shot, but I can get them mobile for a short time." The lead Zerathi tilted its head, obviously hearing every word. "Planning. Already? Good. Prey that runs in straight lines is boring." Morrison ignored the creature and activated his comm. "Kumar, emergency power to transporters. Get us out of here now." Grant's voice crackled through. "Captain, transporters are down. They're somehow interfering with our systems." "Naturally," the Zerathi leader said. "We have been studying your technology for months. Your shields, your weapons, your escape methods, all quite primitive." Taylor kept his rifle trained on the nearest creature, even though the weapon was useless. "Captain, we need to move. They're just playing with us." Morrison nodded. The Korthak commander was on his feet, supported by Thompson's drugs. The other survivors looked ready to collapse, but they were moving. "Back to the ship," Morrison ordered. "Fighting retreat." They moved toward the corridor, but the Zerathi made no attempt to stop them. They simply watched, like scientists observing lab animals. Morrison found this more terrifying than any direct attack. The journey back to the Endeavor took 20 minutes. The Zerathi followed at a distance, occasionally phasing through walls to appear ahead of them, then disappearing again. They were herding the humans, controlling their route. "They're studying our movement patterns," Collins whispered, "learning how we react under stress." When they reached their ship, Morrison expected the Zerathi to attack. Instead, the creatures simply vanished. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. "All hands, battle stations," Morrison announced over the comm. "We are dealing with hostile entities that can phase through solid matter. Conventional weapons are ineffective." On the bridge, Kumar was frantically working his console. "Captain, they're somehow inside our computer systems. I'm detecting intrusion protocols I've never seen before." Morrison took his command chair. "Can you block them?" "I'm trying, but their technology is completely alien. It's like they're not hacking our systems so much as talking to them." Grant looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting massive power signatures throughout the ship. They're everywhere." Thompson was treating the Korthak survivors in the medical bay. Through the comm, Morrison could hear him working. "Captain, the Korthak commander is stable enough to talk. He says the Zerathi always give their prey a chance to run. It makes the hunt more interesting." Morrison felt his tactical training take over. Humans had survived Earth by being adaptable. If conventional weapons did not work, they would find something that did. "Collins, analysis of the Zerathi biosamples you collected." Collins worked at her station. "Their ability to phase through matter appears to have limits. I'm detecting high metabolic costs associated with the phase shifting. They can't maintain it indefinitely." "Weaknesses?" Morrison asked. "Possibly. Their cellular structure suggests they need enormous amounts of energy. If we could disrupt their energy sources." Kumar looked up from his console. "Captain, I might have something. Their biotechnology interfaces with our systems using quantum entanglement. If I can create a feedback loop." The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later. But Morrison knew the Zerathi were making their move. The hunt had begun in earnest. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Grant reported. "But the breach is sealing itself. They're coming through the hull without damaging it." Morrison stood up. "All crew to defensive positions. Use the ship's environment against them. Sealed sections, emergency barriers, anything that might slow them down." Taylor's voice came through the comm from Deck 7. "Captain, they're here. Moving through the corridors like they own the place. My Marines are falling back to secondary positions." Morrison realized they needed a new strategy. Humans had never been the strongest or the fastest species. They had survived through intelligence and adaptation. It was time to remember those lessons. Kumar, can you overload specific sections of the ship? Yes, sir, but... Do it. Create power surges in the areas where they're concentrated. If they need energy, let's give them more than they can handle. Kumar's fingers flew over his console, overloading power conduits in sections C through G. The ship shuddered as massive electrical discharges tore through the corridors. Through the comm, Morrison heard Taylor shouting, "That got their attention! They're moving away from the overload areas." Collins was studying her readings. "Captain, the energy discharges are disrupting their phase abilities. They're being forced into solid form." Morrison felt a spark of hope. "All hands, we have a weapon. Electrical overloads force them to maintain solid form. Use ship's power systems as weapons." For the next hour, the crew of the Endeavour fought, a running battle through their own ship. The Zarathi were forced to adapt to prey that could turn their environment into a weapon. Power conduits became traps. Electrical systems became barriers. But the creatures were learning. Each time the humans used a tactic, the Zarathi adapted to counter it. They began avoiding areas with high electrical activity. They started hunting, in coordinated groups that could cover each other's weaknesses. Morrison found himself in engineering with Kumar and a handful of Marines. The Zarathi had driven them back through most of the ship. They were running out of space and options. "Captain," Kumar said, "I can overload the main reactor, create an electromagnetic pulse that might disable them completely." Morrison considered this. Would we survive? Unknown. But if we don't do something, they'll eventually wear us down. Through the comm, Morrison could hear his crew fighting desperately throughout the ship. Taylor was holding Deck 5 with a handful of Marines. Thompson was defending the medical bay where the Korthak survivors were hidden. Grant was using communications equipment to create electromagnetic interference. These were humans. They came from a world that had tried to kill them every day of their lives. They had survived ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and each other. They would not go quietly into the dark. Morrison made his decision. But before he could give the order, Collins' voice came through the comm with excitement. "Captain, I've found something. The Zarathi aren't just hunters, they're testing us. This whole thing is an evaluation." Morrison paused. "Explain." "The pattern of their attacks. The way they've been studying us. They're not trying to kill us. Quickly. They want to see how we adapt, how we fight, how we think when we're pushed to our limits." Morrison felt a chill as understanding dawned. "They're recruiting." Morrison stared at Collins through the comm screen. "Recruiting? What do you mean?" "Captain, think about it. They could have killed us all within minutes of boarding. Instead, they're prolonging the fight. They want to see what we're capable of when pushed to our limits." Kumar looked up from his console. "That would explain why our countermeasures have been partially effective. They're letting us adapt to see how we respond." Morrison felt anger building in his chest. The Zarathi were treating this like a game, a test to see if humans were worthy of something. He activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. We are not being hunted. We are being evaluated. These creatures want to see what we can do under pressure." Taylor's voice came back immediately. "Captain, does that change our situation?" "No," Morrison replied. "We fight, we adapt. We show these things what humans are really capable of." The battle resumed, but now with new purpose. The crew of the Endeavour stopped fighting defensively. They began to take risks, to innovate in ways that surprised even themselves. Thompson rigged medical scanners to detect the Zarathi's energy signatures even when they were phased. Grant turned the communications array into a weapon, broadcasting electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the creature's abilities. Kumar began using the ship's artificial gravity as a weapon, creating sudden changes that threw the Zarathi off balance. Collins made the most important discovery. "Captain, I've been analyzing their attack patterns. They're not just testing our combat abilities. They're evaluating our capacity for evolution under pressure." Morrison was fighting his way back to the bridge when he heard this. 3 Zarathi had cornered him in a corridor, but he had learned to use the ship's systems against them. A burst of superheated plasma from a damaged conduit forced them to maintain solid form long enough for him to get past. Evolution? He asked, as he ran. Yes, they come from a world where only the most adaptable survive. They're not looking for strong prey. They're looking for species that can change, that can become something new when threatened. Morrison reached the bridge to find it in chaos. Two Zarathi were phasing in and out of the bulkheads while Grant used every electronic system she could reach to drive them back. Morrison drew his sidearm and fired, not at the creatures but at the power coupling behind them. The resulting explosion forced both Zarathi into solid form. Grant immediately hit them with a concentrated electromagnetic pulse from the sensor array. The creatures staggered, clearly hurt for the first time. One of them spoke, its voice filled with what might have been approval. Innovative. You do not fight as you did an hour ago. You have changed. Morrison kept his weapon trained on the creature. We adapt. It's what we do. Yes, the Zarathi said. This is what we hope to see. Collins burst onto the bridge, clutching her scanner. Captain, I know what they want. They're not from this galaxy originally. They're explorers, looking for species that can survive in extreme environments. The lead Zarathi materialized fully. The scientist speaks truth. Our kind has traveled between galaxies for millions of years. We search for species capable of surviving the journey. Morrison felt understanding dawn. You're not hunters. You're recruiters. We are both, the creature replied. Only species that can survive our hunting are worthy of joining us. Your galaxy will eventually die. Stars will burn out. Resources will be consumed. But there are other galaxies, other worlds. Thompson's voice came through the comm. Captain, the Korthak commander is dead. His system couldn't handle the stress. But before he died, he said something strange. He said the Zarathi told him they were looking for those who could hunt among the stars. The Zarathi leader moved closer to Morrison. Your species interests us. You come from a true death world. You adapt quickly. You work together under pressure. These are traits necessary for survival in the deep void between galaxies. Morrison realized the scope of what was being offered. And if we refuse? Then you remain in this dying galaxy. When the last star burns out, your species ends with it. Grant looked up from her station. Captain, I'm detecting more Zarathi ships throughout the sector. Hundreds of them. The creature made its grinding laugh. We do not make this offer to one ship or even one world. We offer it to entire species. Those who prove worthy join us. Those who do not. Morrison thought of Earth, of the billions of humans who had no idea this test was taking place. What would joining you involve? Your species would be changed, enhanced, made capable of surviving in environments that would kill you now. You would become hunters among the stars, seeking other worthy species. Collins was scanning the Zarathi with her equipment. Captain, their biology shows signs of genetic modification from multiple species. They're not just one race anymore. Correct, the Zarathi said. We are a synthesis of every worthy species we have encountered. We carry the strength of the Korthak, the intelligence of the Zalani, the endurance of a dozen others. We offer the same to you. Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew had fought brilliantly, adapting and evolving their tactics in real time. They had shown exactly what humans were capable of when pushed to their limits. And if we join you, what happens to the rest of the galaxy? They remain. Most species are not capable of the journey between galaxies. They will live out their lives here. But you, young Deathworlders, you have the potential for so much more. Morrison made his decision. It was not his choice alone to make for all humanity, but he could make it for himself and his crew. We need time to consider, to discuss this with our people. The Zarathi nodded. Of course. But know this. The offer will not remain forever. We move between galaxies on a schedule that spans millions of years. If your species is to join us, it must be soon. The creature began to phase through the deck. We will be watching. Continue to grow, to adapt, to evolve. Show us that humanity is worthy of the stars. As the Zarathi disappeared, Morrison slumped into his command chair. Around him, his crew slowly emerged from their defensive positions. They had survived their first encounter with something more dangerous than themselves, but more than that, they had been offered a chance to become something new. Something that could survive not just in one galaxy, but among all the galaxies in the universe. Morrison activated the comm to Earth. He had a report to make that would change humanity's future forever. The galaxy was not their limit anymore. The stars themselves were calling, and humans, as always, would find a way to answer.